Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we are going to be discussing how to choose your XFL team. Now, with the XFL quickly approaching, we have to observe all these different teams and decide what team you're going to be a fan of. If you're new to the channel, enjoy football content or sports content in general, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We do a lot of it here at Utility Sports. Now, looking at the teams here, we're going to kind of roll through a couple of them and look at exactly what these teams have to offer. First off, we got St. Louis Battlehawks. Coach Anthony Beck. The stadium is the Dome at America's Center. That's kind of the primary focus here. We're going to be reviewing a couple of different aspects. St. Louis has a pretty good roster, holistically speaking. A couple of NFL veterans that you're going to remember, most notably A.J. McCarron is the big one. Former quarterback at Alabama. He played in quite a few games in his NFL career. I think when you look at his whole body of work, pretty impressive in terms of the startup talent here for the XFL. Another guy, Marcel Aitman, the 6'4" wide receiver, very well established, a guy that could do some big things at the XFL level. I think when you look at the Battlehawks, they're a fun, exciting team. A couple of offensive pieces that are going to be explosive. They have one of the best logos in the entire league. So overall, St. Louis has a very compelling, story and situation for you to become a fan of. Now, obviously, if you're in a city, you're likely going to become a fan of them. So people in St. Louis will likely be cheering for the Battlehawks. But this video is for people that don't have a team that's in their area. So St. Louis could be a great option for you. A really notable quarterback. There's not a ton of guys as notable as A.J. McCarron at the QB spot. So he is somebody you're going to want to keep your eye on. The next team we have is the San Antonio Brahmas. Now, with this one, Hines Ward is the coach here. Most notably, at his time with the Steelers, the wide receiver. This guy is a super fun coach to have. I think he's going to do a great job. Stadium is the Alamo Dome, and this is going to be a fun one to watch here. They have a couple of players on the roster that could actually break out and turn into some nice players at the next level at the NFL. If you remember TJ Vasher, the 6'6" wide receiver, high points to football, explosive player. This is one that we very well could see be a one and done at the XFL level, and eventually for him to get his shot at the next level in the NFL. I think the Brahmas, with their new logo, their fresh look, San Antonio has a very compelling case as well. Their jerseys are super awesome to look at as well. This is a good collective group. This is one that you should definitely keep your eye on. I think when you consider what San Antonio has to offer, they got the fun coach, a couple of fun explosive players as well. This is a good option. Now, the next team is Vegas. Now, with Las Vegas, this could be probably the most exciting branding-wise. Why? They have a sweet name, the Vegas Vipers. The Vipers just have an awesome logo to go with it. The red and black is super, super cool to look at. Not only on the logo, but when you look at the jerseys, the helmets, everything is beautiful about what this team has to do from a branding standpoint. They have a fun coach in Rod Woodson, super, super electric there. They're going to be playing at Cashman Field. Now, this is probably the biggest drawback about them picking this team. This is a team that's going to be playing on a AAA stadium. Now, when you look at that, that is not something that's super alluring. It's going to be a little weird in terms of the seating, how they're going to have to do this. But AAA baseball stadiums are not the most conducive for, hosting an XFL team. And I think this is going to be the worst stadium situation that we see across the entire XFL. The one nice thing about it is this team has some awesome players to root for. Brett Hundley, if you remember the UCLA quarterback, he played with the Packers, has numerous amount of other teams. You have Martavis Bryant as well. Probably, you could argue, the best player talent-wise that remains in this entire league. Martavis Bryant, super explosive wide receiver from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a guy that's really trying to, reclamate and take back his career and try to get back to the NFL ranks. Another player that is a good cornerstone in terms of developing a fandom for. So to me, Vegas is another exciting option. I think there's a lot of them, but I have some bias against some of these other teams as well. And the big thing for me here, I really don't like the stadium situation. I think it's not going to be as fun of an atmosphere. I think the facility is kind of junk, to be honest. So as long as we're being transparent here, That's the big drawback. That's the big drawback. If you want a stadium that has a good, fan experience and atmosphere, it's not going to be with the Vipers unless they're able to figure out their stadium situation later on. Now, the next team we have is the Orlando Guardians, and the Orlando Guardians are coached by Terrell Buckley. The stadium is Camping World Stadium, and if you remember, Camping World Stadium currently does not host a team, but it was built in 1936. It hosts the Cheez-It Bowl. There's a couple of different events during the course of the year that it is able to hold. It's a pretty nice stadium, relatively speaking, for the age of it and what it's currently being used for. It's kind of got a fun logo here for the Guardians. Paxton Lynch is in the mix at QB. Remember, the first round quarterback formerly. Big arm, good athlete, and is once again trying to find some footing to make it back to the NFL. This is a great opportunity league. Some people don't like the colors. Some people do not like, this color of green and how their jerseys are kind of constructed. But at the end of the day, I think the logo is super awesome, in my opinion. If you remember when, they were the New York Guardians, formerly of the 2020 startup, but now they changed the colors and changed, the location. That's the same thing with the Vipers. It was, the Vipers of Tampa Bay. Now they moved over, and now I think it's better with the Vegas Vipers. The alliteration makes sense. The city makes more sense for what they were trying to be. All they did on the logo side of it was change colors for that. So you see a little bit of shifting from the 2020 startup to the now current startup. I think they did some things that are very, very good in terms of the rebrands. Some of it, I think they made some mistakes on it, but we'll get to that a little bit later on with some of the other teams. But Orlando, a really compelling argument, on the southeastern portion of the United States, if that's kind of your region. You also want to have a team that you very well could travel to or is easily accessible to watch, which most of these games will be readily available for people on the SPM platform. So Orlando, Terrell Buckley, this is another team. Probably not my favorite option. Nevertheless, definitely people could get on board. Now we got the Arlington Renegades here, and Bob Stoops is one of the more notable coaches in this entire thing. Bob Stoops had a lot of success at Oklahoma. When you look at the coaching staff he's assembled, it's probably the best holistically speaking that you can pick from. Stadium-wise, being at the old Rangers ballpark is a, kind of a negative in my opinion. I just don't like the idea of them having to play in a place that was a baseball stadium that was not built to be an NFL or college football stadium. To me, it just makes it a little bit weird with the field dimensions, the amenities being in certain places. To me, it's kind of a losing formula in that regard. But if you're looking for a team that's got a really good roster to start, a little bit more to come on this later, but they have a quarterback that's very experienced in these startup leagues, a guy that can win at these levels. He's mobile, he's fun to watch, he's explosive. A lot of those different things are going to be factors in this league in terms of you choosing a roster, you choosing a franchise to cheer for. Now, this is your jurisdiction. You can do whatever you want. You are not bound to a certain area. You're not bound to your local team. But a lot of times, since there's only 8 teams, there's going to be a lot of people like us who are still searching for a team because we don't have one locally to necessarily cheer for. Arlington is a great opportunity for people to go ahead and find a competitive team right away, a team that's probably going to win. If that's something that's important to you, make sure that you go ahead and take a look at that. Now we have the DC Defenders. Now the DC Defenders, coached by Reggie Barlow. DC's got some nice uniforms. I'm going to be completely honest. They have some really clean uniforms. Got the red and white going on. Their stadium is Audi Field, and that's their current MLS stadium. It's a nice venue, and I think it's a little more conducive than some of the other baseball stadiums we've seen in terms of how can we capture a good fan experience, fan environment. In the 2020 startup, they also had it at Audi Field, and it worked out beautifully. So to me, even though it's designed as a soccer stadium, it is a little more conducive what they're trying to do in the XFL. The quarterback situation is going to be really fun. Very well could be a guy like De'Aaron King. There's a couple of other notable players that are going to be working themselves into this lineup that are a lot of fun. I think DC, combination of a really good logo, I think with the combination of having a good fan experience, a team that's going to have probably quite a bit of support right off the bat, like they did in the 2020 startup that, obviously failed after a couple of months. I think to me is a phenomenal option as well. DC's cool. DC Defenders just, flows off the tongue nice. And I think, honestly, a great opportunity there. Now we have the Houston Roughnecks. Now, the Houston Roughnecks are going to be one of the favorite teams going into this. Why? You have probably the most notable coach of all of the coaches here in Wade Phillips. You look at his success as a head coach in the NFL, a coordinator in the NFL. He has the most experience. He has the most credibility. He's probably the smartest one of this grouping here. So you're looking at best head coach is going to be Wade Phillips, playing at TDECU Stadium, home of the Houston Cougars. This is another thing where they have a pretty decent venue. So Houston, good coach, good venue. Their logo is awesome. And another fun player to remember here is Chauncey Rivers. If you remember him from Last Chance U, was a big part of that. Overall, this is a really good combination here. Their jerseys are awesome, phenomenal jerseys, great fan support in Houston. That is something that's super critical to fan experience and the actual success of a team is what kind of support are you going to get from your city? Houston is one of those teams that you have to consider is going to have some of the, best support of all of these different ones that you're kind of looking at. And I think they did a great job during the 2020 startup. They had some awesome jerseys then. They have some awesome jerseys now. They make quite a few changes fundamentally to what those jerseys look like. Overall, I think this is another phenomenal option. And then we also have the Seattle Sea Dragons. This is probably one of the lesser of the, in terms of popularity where they currently sit. Jim Haslett's the head coach. I'm not loving Haslett. Stadium, Lumen Field. That's where Seattle Seahawks play. This is obviously a venue catered to football, designed for football. I think it's a little weird, to be completely transparent, having a NFL stadium be, enlarged in this. Just because of the sheer fact that when you are looking at this, you want this to be your own team. You don't want it to be just feeling like a knockoff of your NFL franchise that's currently in that city. You want it to be a different entity. Now, I think there's been a little bit of pushback in terms of the name, the Seattle Sea Dragons. I've heard a lot of negative in the community about it. There's also been some pretty good positive, with the alliteration of Seattle Sea Dragons. To me, it makes sense for the geographical area. I think it's a little quirky, a little weird. But the one redeeming thing about this team is the fact that it has Josh Gordon, one of the more talented players in the entire XFL. Overall, this is what's pretty fun about it. I think when you consider everything, Seattle has some bright spots. I mean, good venue if you really care about that. A fun superstar player in terms of these league standards. Superstar player that's going to play well in the first year that he's there for sure. And to me, overall, it makes sense to become a Dragons fan. So I think every single team has some weird things about it that aren't as fun, but also there's some big drawing factors in to each of these franchises. Now, if you look at the best helmets, I think Seattle's got some great helmets. Now, it's a little weird with the orange, but I mean, it looks pretty cool. The dragon in the shape of the S, the green face mask, the orange helmet, it kind of flows nicely. Now, I'm generally not a big fan of the green and everything. I think there's a lot of players in this that made some sense. Houston has some really good ones. You go down the line, there's not a team with a really brutal helmet. The Brahmas are right here too, but Seattle's got some really nice helmets. I'm generally not a fan of the Seattle branding, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think Seattle's got some awesome helmets to look at. Best jerseys. Now we have Houston that is entering the equation here. So if you're looking for the best jerseys, they have the best to pick from. Why? You have the gradient numbers. You have the different design on the shoulders up in that area. The great logo, the pants that are perfectly matching, these jerseys in terms of it meshing well together. Holistically speaking, they have some awesome ones. A lot of the other teams have some good jerseys as well. I like DC's, what they have to offer. Every team's got a pretty solid jersey, but if you're looking at the best overall jersey, to me, it has to be Houston. Houston's done a nice job with their branding. The Roughneck name is unique. The logo is unique. The actual jerseys themselves, to me, it looks awesome. When you look at the coaching, once again, I had alluded to this earlier, Wade Phillips is the best coach in the XFL. And I think his resume speaks for itself. His experience speaks for itself. This is a phenomenal coach. He's going to have a good staff. Him and Bob Stoops are probably going to have the two best staffs out there. But when you're looking at actual individual head coaches and what they bring to the table, Wade Phillips is towards the top. To me, it makes sense. So Houston's got some really, really good polling options. Best roster. Now we're going to kind of go down the list here for Arlington, but Arlington has Kyle Sloter, Adrian Killens from UCF. He had a phenomenal career there. Tyler Vaughns. Nick Cannella is another big one you're going to recognize. Big time tight end. He's going to be super productive. Probably should be tight end 1 if you are doing XFL fantasy. Will be that guy for you. Cameron Hunt, Doug Costin, if you remember, he caught on with Jacksonville. I think it was just 2 years ago as an undrafted free agent, absolutely showed up for the Jags and ended up just, not catching on any further, which is incredible with how well he had played his rookie season. Devontae Bosby, another big name to watch. LeBlanc, and once again, these are 2 NFL corner level players. And I think it's only going to take this season until they're back on NFL rosters. Will Hill had some productive years in the NFL and also like the AAF, etc. And then Marquette King is one of probably the biggest name, honestly, on this team. No surprise. I mean, he's a punter. This guy he's still got it. I think he's going to work himself back in the NFL. So a lot of NFL level caliber players. And I could see, out of this list, at least, 5 or 6 of them getting back to the league at some point in their careers. So if you're looking for the best roster to win right now, it would be the Renegades, in my opinion. Arlington's going to have a good, productive roster under Bob Stoops. And I think really overall, this is going to be good. Now, if you're looking at the best stadium, now this is tough because there's going to be some people that say, hey, it's got to be Lumen Field in Seattle. Obviously, because the Seattle Seahawks play there, it's a good facility. Yes, it is. Now, in that same vein, you also want to have a stadium that you can claim as your own. This is our stadium. And the only team that has an NFL caliber stadium that can say that is the Battlehawks. The Battlehawks, playing in St. Louis, are getting to use the Rams' old stadium. Yes, it's a dome. Yes, it's not super flashy and exciting, but it's better than playing on a AAA baseball stadium. It's better than playing on the Rangers, old ballpark. So the baseball stadiums I'm out on. The only other one I would have considered here probably, Camping World Stadium is right there. But once again, that's an even older facility. So to me, having the ability to have an NFL caliber stadium in a really good location in St. Louis, to me, makes a lot of sense. You have your own stadium, really good capacity. You're going to be able to jam pack a lot of people in there. And St. Louis is going to be craving football. It's going to be an awesome environment. And to me, Dome at America's Center is the top stadium, which will be probably an opinion that's not super popular. However, I do like what I see from what they put together. And now, what is the best overall team? That decision is completely up to you. You have to decide that. You have to figure out exactly what is the best overall one. There's a lot of different teams. Like for me, it's been a tough decision-making process trying to consider the players. I just don't have a local team I can cheer for. Therefore, I had to draw this all out and try to figure it out on my own. To me, I'm pretty excited to make my final decision. I want you to let me know in the comment section below what team you are claiming before the XFL season starts this upcoming Saturday. I'm really excited to hear your thoughts and opinions and where you want to be as an XFL fan. It'll be good to talk in the community here, and we'll get to see who we are all rooting for once it comes to opening kickoff. Let me know in the comment section below what's your favorite team and also your favorite player heading into this season. I had a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys stopping by. We'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.